What's up, everybody? How we doing? Good morning. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. How we feeling? We got a little bit of news to talk about. Let's talk about it, shall we? As you know, this morning, blockbuster news, Myles Garrett signed a crazy contract extension. That was wild. But in the meantime, Tim Kawakami told us a little different news as that news dropped out. So let's talk all about it. How's everybody doing? Happy daylight savings times, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Christine Workman, Kirk, Cosmo, Debtopio, Darren says good morning. Good morning to you. Yeah, AJ says what's up? I'm good. Good morning, Stephanie. Yeah, I feel a lot better. Thank you for asking, Kirk. I feel a lot better. I've been getting some rest. I got a humidifier the other day. That's been wonders. Actually got what else did I get? I got a nebulizer. Oh my God, that was wonders for me. So I've been better, looking good. I'm ready to tackle free agency next week. So I'm feeling a lot better. But yeah, let's talk about the good news of the morning, right? So obviously this morning, Adam Schefter and all the other big news reporters said Myles Garrett reached an agreement today on a record contract extension, averages $40 million per year, $123.5 million guaranteed. That's crazy. Highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So Nick Bosa's contract from a couple years ago, it's like irrelevant at this point. We're getting a deal with Nick Bosa at $34 million a year. It's crazy. $34 million a year. Myles Garrett's $40 million. Oh my God. So at the same time that news dropped, my boy Tim Kawakami, he's got some insight. He's been pretty spot on lately. A lot of people say, "Oh, Tim doesn't know anything." He's got some insight. So he said, "Meanwhile, I've heard Joey Bosa and the 49ers are having good conversation, and this feels like it's headed towards a deal." He says nothing is done, but the Bosa brothers want to be together and probably will get there this year, which likely means this will be a moderate deal plus incentives. So in order to get Joey Bosa, you got to make this deal make sense. You can't overpay the guy, right? I feel like incentive-based contract is the way to go. Like you play 10 games, you get this much money. You play 12 games, you get this, something like that. You get per, maybe if you get 10 sacks, give them a little incentive to reach that, something like that. You need to put in some incentive because if Bosa's like, "Oh, I got 8 sacks, man, my hamstring's a little sore today. Well, I should play," something like that, because he does get injured, and you don't want to rely on a guy that's injury prone. But the other thing that Tim Kawakami said was interesting. He said, let me pull up all his tweets here, because this is a good insight, actually. So, and I believe that the 49ers are probably going to get this done, or at least really, really try hard, because he's not the only one saying that. This has been said by Ian Rappaport and a lot of other reporters in the business. He says, "I'm not specifically heard that it's a huge 49ers advantage, but knowing Nick's feelings about it, artificial surfaces, and Joey's injury history, it probably is. Joey Bosa should want to play on Levi Stadium's grass field." So he's saying that it's not just because Levi Stadium's grass isn't like the biggest advantage, but there is some truth to that, saying I may not want to go to a turf field, and Levi's is a nice stadium to play in because it's a grass, right? It's a little bit better for these athletes, especially if you have injury risk. So I think that's something that'll weigh on his mind. Obviously, playing next to his brother, those are big things. I'm sure his mom is calling him every day. "Joey, son, have you signed with the 49ers yet?" The other thing that Tim Kawakami says is, "My understanding is that the idea would be to bring Joey Bosa in as a rotation piece." So this is key. Rotation piece. You don't need him to play 40, 50 snaps a game, because obviously you do that, you'll blow his hamstring out by week 2. He says, "Keep Leonard Floyd, rotate Joey in and out. Also, if everybody stays healthy, it allows the 49ers to rest Nick some more in a top 3 defensive end depth chart." And he's right. Then you could have Leonard Floyd, you have Nick Bosa, you got Joey Bosa. Maybe you add a big-time pass rusher in the draft. Your edge depth's a lot better than what it was last year, because last year's edge depth was horrible. It was horrible. It was putrid. When Nick Bosa was gone, who was getting to the quarterback? Obviously, Leonard Floyd stepped up. But other than that, it really didn't have much pass rush. So I think this definitely helps and you could make him a rotational piece. He doesn't need to be starting out there. And I mean, there's going to be times where both the Bosa brothers are in. There's a package, the Bosa brother package, but you don't need to force him to play too much. And it'll keep him healthy, keep Nick healthy, and that's what you want. Because you are paying Nick Bosa $34 million a year. So let's see. Let's take a look at some of these comments. Rick says, I'm disappointed with Miles. He said it wasn't about money, but I guess teams couldn't afford what Cleveland would. Yeah, I mean, if someone's asking you to take $40 million, $123.5 million guaranteed, it's hard to pass that up. I'm not disappointed in Miles. He said, show me the money. He said, okay. Cleveland said, okay. Like, I know he said, this is funny because Myles Garrett said, oh, yeah, I want to go to a winner, a contender. The Browns said, oh, hold up. I was about $123.5 million guaranteed. That's hard to pass up. At the end of the day, money talks. Bullshit walks. Remember Brandon Ayuk? He said, money talks. Bullshit walks. Money talks, man. At the end of the day, you just got to pay the man. And I don't know if it'd be easy for me to walk away from $40 million a year. And that was maybe it was a tactic by Myles Garrett. Maybe it was a business ploy to get him to pay him. And it worked. So Myles used the leverage on everyone, says 49 pro 100%. Mario says, but Bosa ain't like Garrett. Yeah, you're right. He's definitely not Myles Garrett. So you can't be paying him upper echelon money. And again, Joey Bosa being a rotational piece, be fun. And it would sell seats. I'm telling you, man, people would be buzzing to see the Bosa brothers on a weekly basis. It'll definitely sell seats. And I think the 49ers know that. I don't think it's their only way to win. Like you bring in the Bosa brothers, it's not like a championship move. It's a good move. He's a good player. He's not what he was. You know, he's getting to, what is he, 30 now? Gonna be 30. He's not what he was, but he's still a goddamn good player. And I mean, to have the Bosa brothers, the merchandise alone is gonna go crazy. So what's up, Danny? What's up, Rob? AJ says, what do you think about Parag having a bigger role when it comes to contract negotiations? I don't necessarily think it's a bigger role. I think it's just let's leave Kyle out of this role. We talked about this the other day. Kyle needs to step away from contract negotiations and because Parag is the guy. He's the one that does, like, this is the thing. Like, I know my boy Moose, who knows, like, I know a lot of stuff about Parag that maybe people don't know. And Parag's the guy. He has a huge role when it comes to contract negotiation. But the problem is it gets overshadowed sometimes because we hear these stories of like Kyle Shanahan running down the steps to get Brandon Ayuk. We hear about John Lynch and this and that. Everybody has a role. And I think this year, Jed York is trying to really make sure he creates, like he separates those roles. And he wants to know, Parag, he's the guy. Let's let him focus on that contract negotiations because he is. But he wants him to be center stage. He doesn't want any more, people dropping. He doesn't want any, when they say too many chefs in the kitchen, too many cooks in the kitchen. He doesn't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen. You got the master chef and Parag. Let him stay in his lane. Let Kyle Shanahan stay in his lane as a coach. Let John Lynch stay in his lane as a GM. Go GM this team. Go scout. Go, try to get some free agents. Make the calls. Kyle, you good on those schemes? You building offensive schemes? Okay, good. Stick to that. Coach this team. The players love you. Keep that up, but stick to coaching. Parag, how those contracts looking? That's kind of what's going on. He wants to make sure those roles are defined, and he doesn't want to have any overlap because too much overlap. Like, again, Kyle's buddy. He's a good coach because he really relates to the players. He becomes their best friend. But when you do that, it causes too much in terms of, you put your heart in it and you're like, oh, we can't lose BA. Oh, we gotta keep him, even though he was acting like a child last offseason. Oh, I love Debo. Maybe they could have traded him last year for more, right? Probably a 3rd round pick last year. But I love Debo, guys. This is Kyle. I love Debo. We got to keep him. So Jed York is saying, look, we got to get you out of contract negotiations because you got too much heart in the game. It's not a bad thing. When you're negotiating with your heart, it could become a bad thing. So, Chris says, did I see Seattle was asking 5 draft picks for DK Metcalf? They've been asking for a lot. That's why Sam I don't know if you saw on that post a couple days ago, he said, are they smoking meth? Seattle has tempered their expectations, and they're looking to get Sam Darnold as a quarterback. Can you imagine? Seahawks downfall. It's one to watch, but see how it goes. Rob says, do you think Joey Bosa signs a performance-based contract? I think that's what Tim was kind of leaning towards. I think it is going to be incentive-based, performance-based type of deal. Like there'll be like a base salary, but then there's going to be incentives and certain magnifiers in the contract for him to earn more money, because obviously he wants more money. But the 49ers aren't going to guarantee him a lot of money off top. They're going to say, hey, look, this is what you get. Now you can make blah, blah, blah based on these performance numbers. And I 100% think that's the way it's going to be, Rob. That's that. You can't pay Joey Bosa 15, 20 mil off the rip just because he's Joey Bosa. Great player, but the injury history is there. It's a realistic thing. And I think it's okay. You could make $8 to $10 million with us, but if you want 15, 20, you got to do this. You got to play these many games. You got to do this. I think that's smarter. So my man 49 problem says, Kyle, just stick to your day job. Exactly. Too much favoritism occurs, says Rick, going back to that whole conversation we just had. I agree. 49 problem says, what number will Joey wear if he comes to Niners? Maybe not. That's a good question. 98 is open with Hargrave out. Maybe he takes 99. Maybe because he wore 90. He wore 99 a couple, like when he first came in the league, if I remember correctly. But then he switched to 97. They both got 97. I think Joey Bosa probably would wear 99. Whoever's got it right now, you got to take it off because that's Joey Bosa's number. 98, 99 probably is where they go. Probably where he goes. That's a good question. Who's going to wear? Who's wearing 97? Nick Bosa's wearing 97. I'm sorry. You can't take 97 from your buddy, unless you pay him. Nick's going to say, oh, you want the 97? Pay me, buddy. But I think maybe 99. He wore 99 in his rookie season, I believe. So worry about coaching. Yeah, that's right, Christine. 49ers need to downscale Shanahan's role, says Cosmo. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do, because you got to remember when Kyle took this, he was the head coach. He was the one that chose his GM. He helped in the selection process of finding John Lynch. Like, he has a lot of power, but I think people forget about that because it was Kyle Shanahan first, and then he hand selected John Lynch. And I think he has had more power than John Lynch. And I think that Jed York saying, look, man, I need to delegate a little bit more responsibility to John Lynch because he's the GM, or not necessarily more responsibility, but he needs to make sure he's like the main guy. Like, it's his time to shine this year. And Kyle, you can shine. We love you, but shine as a coach, because last year was 6 wins was not good. Let's be honest. Obviously, there was a lot of issues that happened, but 6 wins is not good. So we'll see how it goes this year. I think this is going to be a very interesting offseason. This week is going to be very busy, I'll say, in terms of, news and things like that, because it always is. But the other thing is, it's not necessarily going to be busy on the Niners end. It's going to be busy on the players that the Niners aren't going to bring back. Like, there's a lot of older players that may not be back, or a lot of veterans on this team that may not be back. So there's a list. There's a list of players that are probably going to be very highly sought after in the free agent market. And the Niners aren't probably going to sign them back. And that's where I think Jed's saying, okay, here, John, focus on free agency. You take the lead, because if Kyle had his hand in it, he's probably going to bring these guys back, because he's like, oh, I love this guy. I love this guy. I love this guy. You can't pay these. You can't pay like Aaron Banks. You can't pay him. He's going to get $20 million according to projections last week. We ain't paying Aaron Banks $20. I love you, but he gone. Charvarius Ward. I love the guy. He's probably not coming back. He said it himself. He's got PTSD. There's no way you bring him back, but I love him. He's probably going to get a lot of money, but you got a young cornerback in Renardo Green. You got Diamond Lenore. You got to move on. But Kyle would probably like tug at his heartstrings, try to get him back. And I don't think it's going to happen. Javon Hargrave, they already moved on from him. They said there's a possibility of him coming back. I don't want him. He's damaged good, right? Jalen Moore, not a bad player. I really was impressed with Jalen Moore last year. I really hope they can bring him back, because Jalen Moore last year, he filled in very admirably for Trent Williams. And I think he could be a good swing tackle. I think he's better than Colton McKivitz. Maybe you start him and you put Colton as the swing tackle if you don't get another tackle in the draft. That's a guy I would like to see. And then Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is the big priority right there, and all those guys. Can they get him back? I know Robert Salah has been trying to get him. So this is John Lynch's time to shine. Make sure he gets the right guys back, make sure he lets the right guys leave. And I think that's why they're saying, look, John, you focus on this, Kyle. Go focus on building your schemes and figuring out what we're going to do to improve next year. So, gonna be interesting. Now, there's another guy that obviously is in the mix. A couple days ago, Eric Branch reported that the 49ers are going to target Jonathan Allen from the Washington Commanders. Well, formerly of the Washington Commanders. He was released. They tried to trade him, couldn't get a trade partner. Now he's a free agent. He's free to sign with anybody. And Tim Kawakami, he did say that I think Jonathan Allen, depending on the price tag, is also a possibility. The 49ers can theoretically sign both veteran D linemen. It doesn't mean they will, but adding Joey Bosa, I'm told, wouldn't rule out also going after Allen. So just because they signed Joey Bosa doesn't mean they're not going to sign Jonathan Allen. So they could get both of these defensive linemen. And can you imagine two big guys like that? I know they're a little older, but they're still pretty good. That would really bolster this defensive line. You'd have Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, as long as they don't cut him, right? Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Jonathan Allen, Kalia Davis. That'd be a lot better than what it was last year. So I think they're in a good position to get both of those guys. I think Jonathan Allen would really bolster the interior. I think he'd be an upgrade over Javon Hargrave, and it would really help the run defense. And, Joey Bosa, he may not be the most electric pass rusher like he was when he first came in, because he was a dynamite pass rusher. But I think he's still a good edge setter, and I think that would really, really help in terms of, stopping the run. So we'll see how it goes in terms of that. But Jonathan Allen definitely in the mix, and so is Joey Bosa. Those two guys could be the guys that the 49ers sign. I'm excited. I'm excited about that. Although I know the big talk during Combine was, get younger. So that does go a little bit against what the 49ers were preaching a couple weeks ago, getting younger. But, it's hard to pass. You do have to get a few free agents. But then after that, I think they're going to go in the draft and absolutely maul it. They have to. This is a very important draft. As we said, they're going to lose a lot of those players that we had mentioned, right? So losing those players, you got to make sure you replace them with younger talent. And I think that's what the 49ers are going to go and do in this draft. And, I hate to use them as example, but it is a good example. The LA Rams, I hate them, but, man, did they knock that draft out of the park last year or what? They're set. And I think that's what the 49ers have to do. The 49ers had a good draft class last year. We got to be real with it. They had a good draft, but they have to have another good draft, maybe better than they did last year, because, again, you're losing a lot of players. You're going to sign Brock Purdy to a big contract, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But you have to make sure you nail this draft with players that could be starters for several years. So big draft coming up. Steven says either Allen or DJ Jones can sign 10 to 11 million per year. Oh, I love DJ Jones. Go get DJ Jones back. Shouldn't have let him go anyways. We definitely need a solid DT, says Rick. And the 49ers, they made some mistakes. And I think that's why John Lynch needs to really hit on this free agency. They've made some big moves. They've made some really good moves. But, he's made some bad decisions, right? They paid Brandon Ayuk. Debo's contract was kind of messy, but at the end of the day, you had to pay Debo when you paid him. The injuries caught up with him. Trading away DeForest Buckner, that was bad, and then they didn't re-sign DJ Jones. They prioritized Armstead over those two guys. That was rough, right? So, and then they took Hargrave because they're like, oh, okay, we screwed up. We got to right our wrong. And they took Hargrave, and that didn't go well. So there's been some big blunders over the last couple of years. And I think this year they're really going to be smart, and they really have to do their due diligence and say, can we don't want to mess up this year. And they've had some bad decisions. And I think that's where John Lynch has to shine this year. He's made some really big moves, but at the same time, they also traded up, the draft picks for Trey Lance. And that was a bad mistake. But how much was John Lynch a part of that? How much was Kyle Shanahan a part of that? And that goes back to Judge York saying, look, stay in your lane. Maybe Kyle Shanahan had a lot of influence and say, we need to trade up and get a quarterback. He's the offensive guy. He's coaching he's the guy that makes the decisions on offense. And I'm guessing he said, look, we need to go in, move all in. And then there was a debate, because there was 3-month debate of who are they going to get. And they looked after Fields. They looked after Mac Jones. They looked after Trey Lance. At the end of the day, all those guys were bad. So that was a bad draft class to move up it. But they made that decision, and it really set them back. If it wasn't for Brock, they'd be screwed. They found Brock. Good for them. shout out to Brian Greasy, and the rest is history. But there was bad decisions over the last couple years, and they have to make sure they don't make bad decisions. And this year's critical. But despite all those crazy bad decisions, they were in the Super Bowl. They were in the NFC Championship. Just couldn't get it done. So, no need to start extensions during training camp. I agree. So, Albert Breer. Let's see what Albert Breer says. While I'm yapping, Albert Breer has what's the update on Albert Breer? On Dre Greenlaw. I didn't see it. He doesn't. I have to read about it. I don't see it. We'll have to find it. But let's see. Oh, there it is. Dre Greenlaw is expected to get a similar contract that linebacker Derek Barnes got with the Lions for Albert Breer. Oh, okay. Let's see. 3 years, $25.5 million. Interesting. Very interesting. We'll see. What do you guys think? I don't know if the 49ers give him that. Do you think so? Ooh, I don't know if he's coming back on that. That's a big deal. That's going to be interesting next week. Like I said, keep an eye on Dre Greenlaw. The other thing I want to talk about real quick before we leave is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy reportedly, a couple days ago, there was a rumor. Jason La Canfora said that the 49ers initial offer was $45 million per year. Now, Deanna Rossini yesterday on her Scoop City podcast, said that was a lie. That's disrespectful. $45 million was not the initial offer. She says, I put my life on it. She says that I'd put my phone on it. But bottom line, it's not a thing. And that was a lie. That $45 million was not a lie. So we'll see. I don't know if $45 million was the initial offer was true, but Deanna Rossini is saying that is absolutely false. It was not the thing. It was not it. That's not what happened. So, but let's talk about Dre Greenlaw expected to get a contract similar to Derek Barnes, 3 years, $25.5 million. Wow. Interesting. I don't know if we can afford that. Do you think we can afford that? I don't think so. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, guys. We'll see. But yeah, that's it. Myles Garrett signed with the Browns. Joey Bosa, he's very much linked to the 49ers. And here we are. We'll see what happens this week. Stay tuned. I love y'all. Go Niners.